All right. I just want to share with you guys something real quick that I found today that I think is really, really cool. And I'm really excited that I found this. um, so, if you are anything like me, and I know a lot more people my age and younger even that are, you regularly frequent the book section at your various thrift stores. And I was there today and I found a book, and that book is called The Jack Tales. Not written by Richard Chase, but collected by Richard Chase. The actual title is The Jack Tales Folk Tales from the Southern Appalachians, collected and retold by Richard Chase, which is cool because I've got family ancestry from the Southern Appalachia and family who have lived out there recently, or at least nearby there. Um, that and I've been digging into stories and fairy tales and a lot of that stuff. So I started looking through this book um, and reading a couple stories in it, and one of them sounded very familiar to me. So the first one that I actually jumped in and read is a story called Jack and the Bull. And Jack and the Bull just very briefly recounts the story of a young man who is not being well provided for. So he goes out and he encounters this bull, and this bull takes care of him and is able to give him food and water by him removing the horns. Sorry, bread and milk. He removes the horn and is able to extract bread and milk from each horn. And it's kind of this magical thing. And the mother, who is very frustrated, or the stepmother, grandma, I can't remember all the details because there's so many different variations of the story, and it changes between the different stories. But whoever the maternal caregiver in Jack's life um, is intentionally trying to starve him, and in this case, uh, Jack is not actually losing weight, like he's starving to death, but Jack is actually gaining weight, and the maternal caregiver figure is trying to figure out why. So sends her daughters after him, and this might sound familiar to you if you know Grimm's fairy tales at all. Has three daughters. One daughter has one eye. And so when Jack sees her following him, he plays his fiddle until she falls asleep, till the one eye closes. Then another daughter goes out to try and follow him and see how he's gaining weight. This daughter has two eyes, so Jack plays another song on his fiddle. This song he has to play twice as long, though, in order to get both eyes to close, ratios and whatnot. And so this daughter falls asleep, doesn't see what Jack is doing, and comes back empty handed on information. Third daughter comes back, and the third daughter is sent out, and the third daughter has three eyes. So this three-eyed daughter um, is able to keep the one eye open and is able to observe Jack. Um, and see him being fed by this bull. Now, that's not the core of the story. That's one of the elements of the story. So, if you are familiar, here I've got one of my three copies of the complete Grimm's fairy tales, and I've done a recording of the story One Eye, Two Eyes, Three Eyes, which you'll be able to find shortly. Um, but just know it's mirrored in this Jack and the Bull. That's a collection of tales from Southern Appalachia, circa the late 1800s, early 1900s. This book was first published, I think, in like 1920, 19, somewhere around there. Um, First published in 1943. Okay. But this is what I love about stuff like this is, as I'm looking in this book, just to get a little bit more detail, I noticed, oh, this book has an appendix in it. And in this appendix, it actually goes through and identifies parallels. Whoops, I don't know if you can see that very well, but it identifies parallels with these stories and other um, well-known stories, well-known fairy tales. If that is something at all that interests you, is looking at these repeating tropes, repeating themes, or elements of story that seem to be universal across different cultures and different storytelling time periods and events. You might be interested to know that there is a series of books out there, and you can get PDFs of all this for free. This is a catalog of international types of or types of international folk tales. It is called the Arn Thompson Uther Index, and you can find it online. There's online versions, or you can get the book, find the PDF online, or whatever. It's a huge, huge book, but it helps you identify these patterns that overlap or that appear in different ways, slightly modified due to cultural norms or time period or a handful of things like that. But it's a great way to be able to see and identify these overlapping patterns. There are some things that I think are interesting, and that is that it categorizes kind of folk tales and fairy tales differently than it categorizes mythologies or even like things that some people might refer to as religious scripture. It categorizes them all differently. So there are a lot of things in there that should overlap that are not necessarily documented as overlapping that I think you would find very interesting as well. So we're going to spend some time digging into those. I don't know when the first will be available, but you should start to see some of these within the next couple months. All right. Thanks everyone. I got really excited when I found that book today, thinking it was just going to be stories of, you know, British Islander migrants to the Western Carolinas, and those are my people. So when it was even more than that, it was those people's retelling of fairy tales. I got super excited and had to share it with someone. So uh, stay tuned.